From Charlottesville, this is GMC on Fox Virginia with Bo Sykes, Brenna Kiefner, and meteorologist Delaney Tharp. Now, this is GMC on Fox Virginia.
Coming up on GMC, a local legal expert weighs in on the recent high court ruling banning nearly all abortions in Arizona. Could that happen in Virginia? We'll tell you what that expert says.
Plus, a student in Charlottesville was taken into custody yesterday after being found with a loaded gun at school. We'll have the latest on the police investigation.
And holding presidents accountable, which was a topic yesterday at UVA's Miller Center, while former President Donald Trump sits on trial. We'll break down the latest on his legal battle and what students had to say. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for GMC on Fox Virginia at 8:01. I'm Bo Sykes.
And I'm Brenna Kiefner. We'll get to your top stories in just a moment. But first, it's 8:01. Let's get a check on the Weather Authority forecast with meteorologist Delaney Tharp. Delaney, I got a little bit of a sunburn yesterday because of today's beautiful weather, or yesterday's beautiful weather. Hopefully today will be similar.
Today it's looking pretty similar. We're not going to get as hot though. It was very, very hot yesterday. Some areas got into the 90s. Already. It was a little summer tease yesterday.
Is that a sign of what's to come in the months ahead?
I think so. It might be a hotter summer. But right now we're just going to be pretty seasonable today. A lot of sunshine in store. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Temperatures right now are already into the 60s, and the radar is showing mostly clear skies. We still have some variably cloudy conditions working their way into the area, but no precip on the radar this morning. That is a switch up from last night when we did see some severe warned thunderstorms that moved into the area. None of that in the forecast today. Staying pretty dry. 62 degrees right now outside the studio and 63 at Show Airport with a lot of sunshine already this morning. It's going to be a great day to get outside. If you have any sort of outdoor lunch plans, it's going to be the perfect day for it. Across the Commonwealth already in the 60s and 50s, 62 in Charlottesville, 59 in Orange and Lake Monticello, 54 in Sandersville, and 58 degrees in Madison. So throughout the afternoon, we're into the 70s by about 1 o'clock, 72 degrees with a couple of clouds starting to mix in. So it will stay partly cloudy, but overall very dry. We have a very dry atmosphere continuing with those clouds overnight, keeping our temperatures mild in the 60s and 50s. So we do have a couple upcoming rain chances the next few days. I'll break down exactly how much rainfall to expect and have the full forecast in a little bit.
After the Arizona Supreme Court decided to reinstate a ban on nearly all abortions, a UVA law professor explained the history of the abortion law in Virginia.
She explains what the future of women's rights could be like for people in the Commonwealth. Fox Virginia's Gretchen Stinger reports.
Access to abortion.
It's highly unlikely that something like that could happen in Virginia.
It's been on the minds of many women after one state recently reverted back to a Civil War era law banning nearly all abortions.
There had been court challenges to it. It was put on hold as a result of those court challenges, but it had never officially been repealed by the Arizona legislature.
UVA law professor Dr. Naomi Khan says this law in Arizona was on the books from 1864, and that was also the last law in place until the U.S. Supreme Court issued its opinion on Roe v. Wade in 1973. Khan says Virginia is different.
A few years later, Virginia updated its abortion statutes to be in compliance with what the Supreme Court had held in Roe v. Wade.
After the U.S. Supreme Court issued the opinion on Roe v. Wade in 1973, Virginia followed that ruling. Khan says Virginia's laws on abortion have gone through a number of changes. Just 4 years ago, abortion rights in the state were expanded under former Governor Ralph Northam.
In order for there to be a new abortion law, it would have to pass the legislature and the governor would have to sign it.
That was Gretchen Stinger reporting. A juvenile has been arrested after a loaded gun was found on school property in Charlottesville. It happened on Monday afternoon at the New Pathways Academy, a middle school alternative education program located in the Cherry Avenue Boys and Girls Club. Beaufort Middle School went into indoor instruction mode during the police investigation. According to Charlottesville police, the weapon was spotted near the bag of a student who was sleeping in class. Officers responded and took that student into custody.
The man wanted for murder in Charlottesville's first homicide of 2024 has turned himself into police. Sidney Monticello-Stinney is charged with second-degree murder, use of a firearm in a felony, and violent felon in possession of a firearm. Police say the murder happened last Tuesday evening at 12th Street and Rosser Avenue. 31-year-old Daquan Brown was found shot dead in a car. Stinney is being held at the Albemarle Charlottesville Regional Jail, and the murder is still under investigation. Albemarle County Police announcing an arrest in a weekend carjacking. It happened just after midnight on Sunday at the Green gas station on Country Green Road. The victim says he was pumping gas and was approached by a man who asked for his wallet and cell phone and drove off in the victim's car. The victim sustained minor injuries. About an hour later, deputies in Amherst County found the car along Route 29 and they arrested the driver, who was 19-year-old Jerice Breeden of Charlotte, North Carolina. Breeden is in custody in Amherst and is facing numerous charges.
A motorcyclist is dead after a crash on Sunday night in Madison County. It happened at the intersection of Route 29 and South Main Street. State police say a motorcycle was speeding when it hit an oncoming car. The driver, 48-year-old Lucio Weaver, died on the way to the hospital. Police say he was wearing a helmet. The driver of the car was treated for minor injuries. She was wearing a seatbelt. No charges have been filed.
2 people are displaced after a fire in Albemarle County last night. It happened on the 400 block of Stagecoach Road just after 3 p.m. A neighbor reported seeing smoke showing from the roof. Officials say no one was home at the time and no injuries have been reported.
Albemarle County Special Crisis Response Team has proven to be a success. In fact, they're getting funding for another team.
Albemarle County funded a 3-person team and equipment for 1 year for $300,000. Fox Virginia's Felicity Taylor has more.
Doing the same thing and still coming up with the same problems isn't the way to fix something.
Albemarle County's Human Services Alternative Response Team, or HART, is changing the way law enforcement responds to crises. They determine a crisis as a mental health or substance abuse situation. They've responded to 240 crises since August. About 80% of those had to do with mental health specifically.
Instead of just kind of being a quick fix, we can spend hours, days, whatever it takes.
Not everyone in crisis is able to make good choices for themselves or for others.
The HART team is made up of different professionals from different backgrounds to make sure they hit all their bases. There's a fire marshal.
Are they able to maintain a healthy and safe home? Are they able to cook safely? Are they at risk of starting their house on fire?
And a police officer for when things get out of hand.
Legislative statutes that allow me to take somebody into custody and on the mental health side to be able to kind of force the person to get care if it comes down to that.
Felicity Taylor, Fox Virginia News.
Your time right now is 8:08. The Virginia NAACP is suing Governor Glenn Youngkin to obtain public records on the state's Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI. The chapter accusing the administration of failing to respond to public records requests from last year. The organization said the records would uncover if and how the Youngkin administration is complying with the state's laws on DEI. They say they will challenge any efforts to limit or eliminate DEI practices in state government. Monday marked the beginning of former President Donald Trump's historic criminal hush money trial.
And the UVA Miller Center hosted an event to discuss holding American presidents accountable. Fox Virginia's Garrett Witten was there and has the story.
Of the United States. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, you all are presidents of the United States.
Barbara Perry, a professor in presidential studies at UVA Miller Center, has an audience recite the presidential oath of office to kick off a panel discussion on holding American presidents accountable.
What did the founders put in the Constitution that has something to do with presidential accountability?
The event falls on the same day that marks the beginning of former President Donald Trump's historic criminal hush money trial. It's the first time in history that a former U.S. president has been tried on criminal charges.
Does faithfully executing the office of President of the United States, does that mean that the president will abide by the laws of the United States or simply execute them as they involve other people?
Trump has been charged in 4 separate criminal cases, 2 of them in federal court. Perry, alongside Tim Hafey, who served as lead investigator for the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack, and other legal scholars, are helping make sense of all this and examine what they're calling the broader issue of executive power.
Fair notice that it's the fundamental part of our system of criminal justice is that there are very clear standards to which people are are held.
Perry cites an assertion made by Alexander Hamilton in the Federalist Papers, a collection of essays encouraging the ratification of the Constitution, to sum up a main point made during the discussion.
If something goes wrong, if that troika makes a bad decision, or we could even say breaks the law, which of them is accountable? So he said it's a good thing that we're going to have one, if you will, unified president.
Trump isn't the only one facing legal issues. The panel also discussed current President Joe Biden and his mishandling of classified documents and what could happen to him after his presidency. Garrett Whitten, Fox Virginia News.
Senate Republicans are turning up the pressure on their Democratic counterparts to hold a full trial of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
The House finally sending over 2 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the Senate today, but the trial could be over pretty quickly. I'm Mather Rivera in Washington with the details coming up.
It's finally happening today. The House is expected to send DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas' impeachment articles to the Senate for the start of his trial after last week's delay.
Madeline Rivera has more on the story.
House impeachment managers will walk the articles to the Senate just after 2 p.m. Eastern today, forcing senators to convene a trial. But it could be over before arguments even get underway. Senate Republicans are turning up the pressure on their Democratic counterparts to hold a full trial of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
In the past 200 plus years, we've had 21 impeachments by the United States House of Representatives. We've always held a trial in the Senate unless the impeached official quit. We ought to do it now.
The trial begins in earnest on Wednesday, at which point the senators would be sworn in as jurors. But what happens next is unclear. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has signaled he's looking to move quickly with proceedings and could move to dismiss or table the 2 articles of impeachment. The procedural maneuver only requires a simple majority to pass.
Impeachment should never be used to settle a policy disagreement. That would set a horrible precedent for the Congress. Nevertheless, the Senate's plan has not changed since last week. We are ready to go whenever the House sends us the articles.
In February, House Republicans impeached Mayorkas, accusing him of breach of trust and refusal to comply with the law over his handling of the southern border.
He has taken a bad situation and actually accomplished an amazing feat. He's actually made it worse.
Still, not all Republicans favor impeaching Mayorkas. They worry about abusing impeachment, as Democrats dub the GOP's move as a sham.
Instead of doing their job and working to find legislative solutions, Republicans have decided that impeachment of a cabinet official for actually doing his job is a better exercise of time.
Mayorkas is appearing at a House Homeland Security Committee hearing, setting up a split screen on Capitol Hill today. He doesn't have to appear in the Senate at any point. In Washington, Mather Rivera, Fox News.